Oh, for those of you that are here, okay, you should see a message already saying that this meeting is being live streamed to YouTube. If you do not wish your beautiful faces to end up on YouTube, they're only shared with people that we give the link to. Okay, they can't be just randomly searched, and they can't be found by any other means other than us giving them the link. So, but if you don't wish to have your face on the video, then please turn your video off.
And then you can also just type in any questions and we'll read them out loud.
Yeah, Shannon's helping me do the chat stuff today. So, all right, well, let's jump into this. Here we go. So just like last time, numerology is the belief in numbers and the mystical relationship between numbers and events. Okay. I did kind of modify this a little bit for those of you that want to read the end part there. It just says that, math is how science is going to understand the universe. And I kind of think of numerology as how the spirit can understand itself. So again, numerology is like what to mathematics, what astrology is to astronomy. Some people would look at it and say it's voodoo or, some kind of, astrology or divination or any of this other stuff. And a lot of people, you either believe in it or you don't, that's whether it, falls within something that you feel about or not. So, as a recap of parts 1 and 2, we talked about where numerology came from, some basic numerological systems. We talked about Pythagoras. Pythagoras is basically the founder of modern Pythagorean numerology. He's the guy that kind of discovered the relationships between numbers, and he was actually a philosopher. He was not a mathematician, but he discovered a lot of a lot of still useful mathematical concepts today. Everybody, for those that are math people, know the Pythagorean theorem about finding the legs of a right triangle, that kind of thing. We talked about the basic meanings of numbers. You will have to refer back to them today. So if you have, Shannon, you put the links in the beginning part of that. So in either 1 or 2, I'm not sure if they're in both, but there are the meanings of numbers listed. I don't think I included them in this slide deck because it was rather big.
Like you said.
Yeah. So I got something. I'm gonna have to deal with this, but all right. So we talked about the birth path number and how you find it. We talked about the birth chart and how you put the numbers in it. We're going to just kind of basically see it. We talked about the spatial relationships in the birth chart, where the numbers are and what the numbers in the different boxes mean. And we talked about the arrows of individuality. So again, this is just a basic recap of Pythagoras, Greek philosopher and mathematician. So he's the one that originally designed the little symbol down there for the birth chart, the hashtag or the the hashtag or the pound or the number symbol, whatever your generation remembers it as. So I kind of find it rather ironic that the hashtag people adopted it and then used it for certain things. And if you substitute pound for hashtag, it comes out really horrible, like the Me Too movement, for instance. So yeah, so I just some older generation stuff, Then we talked about the 5 regular solids or the 5 regular polygons. These are things, the first 3 of which Pythagoras discovered to realize that you could make solids out of these spatial relationships and mathematically prove how they all equal sides and all this other stuff. And the last 2 we were going to need to know was Euclid and the golden ratio. Euclid was a philosopher shortly after Pythagoras' time, and he discovered pretty much everything in geometry and how angles relate to each other and the mathematical proofs there. And once he discovered the golden ratio gave him the last 2 regular polyhedrons on the right there, the one with the pentagrams, or the one with the pentagons, and the 20-sided object there. So this I wanted to, if I can, I don't know if I can click on this, but I wanted to open this so that you could see. Oh, I can close that. No, I can close that. So I don't need that. I just wanted to get to here so I could open this up, and I want to, come on. All right. So, for those of you that are interested in this kind of stuff, if it's interesting you could go and learn about some of it. There's a huge article that I'm about to share with you if I can figure out how. All right. So, if you could see my screen. So this is a version. So right, the regular polyhedron stabby, and for those of you sitting in, those are all Dungeons and Dragons dice, D4s, 6s. Okay, the only one that's not represented there is the D10, because of course the D10 is not a regular polygon. It had to be kind of made up into the shape that you needed. But this is taking it even further. Once we know what's on your screen now is the 4-dimensional versions of those same 3-dimensional objects. Okay, and there are quite a few of them. If you look carefully, you can see a few. Like if you look at the 5 cell shapes there, you can see some familiar symbols in there. Okay. So this again carries it even further. If you look, you can look down here and you can see the cubic envelope. You can see the cell centered, and then okay, this is basically the tesseract is the 4-dimensional version of the cube. So, and it's mathematicians have finally figured out that this is how they, with the golden ratio and all this magic of numbers stuff, and how they decide and how they figured it out. So, all right, back to PowerPoints, slides, share. Come on. Okay. All right. So anyway, that was some basic excitement so that you could share my enthusiasm. Now, of course, the golden ratio, if you apply the golden ratio to a couple of different types of triangles, you get this. I'm pretty sure everybody at least recognizes this symbol, but if you look at the pentagons in the middle, they're like the negative aspect of the, I don't want to say negative, they're like the inverse aspect of it. There's actually a triangles that make up that symbol or that pentagon, but it's kind of all of them, it's like where they are that outline into that pentagon. Well, that pentagon is the exact same pentagon that's on the 12-sided regular polyhedron. So this is how they got it. So we calculated our birth path numbers. For those of you that remember, it was simply a matter of adding all of the numbers in your birth date up, and you can add them up all the way down to a single digit number unless you got 10, 11, or 22. And just as a caveat, the only reason we stuck at 10 was because the number 1, supposedly Pythagoras thought that the number 1 signified unity in the world and ego in humans. So he suggested that the number 1 represented a connected path between all paths, and that 1 was a part of and integral to all other numbers. And of course, Carl Jung took that to a large degree back when he was studying psychology and philosophy. So Pythagoras said that ruling numbers should stop at 10 instead of further reduction. All right, so hashtag birth chart. We knew how to fill them in with the ones. Okay, and then this gave us, this gave us our birth chart. So that's mine. So I have all the numbers along the bottom and the lone 9 up there in the upper right-hand corner. And then we analyze them in accordance with these arrows of individuality. Okay, like I have the dotted version of the number, or of the the center one there, the arrow of hypersensitivity, dotted green right there, because I have no numbers in that plane. Okay. I also have the solid blue because I have all the numbers on the bottom plane. Okay. And then we talked about like individual numbers, like numbers that were isolated from others, like the isolated 9 that I have up in the upper right hand corner. We talked about those things too. Oh, Tabby brings up a good point. We talked about this the last time. Pythagoras, he was aware of 0. He disregarded it because there was no symbol for it. And to him, it didn't mean anything because there couldn't be something that meant nothing. And philosophers and scientists have debated that for years and years and years, because technically, if you think about it, the representations of the numbers that we have are just representations of numbers. It's not like the number 1 is actually a number. It's just a symbol that represents one of something. The same thing is true of 0. 0 is a number. It's a symbol that represents nothing. And it actually isn't nothing. It's none of something. It's an empty set. So it could be none of anything. It could be none of nothing, so it could be an empty set of an empty set. Philosophers and mathematicians have gone around that for a long time. And if you're interested in that kind of stuff, I would love to have debates with people about it, because I seriously kind of would get into it. Thank you. All right. So today, however, if everybody wants to go through, and if you have your birth chart from the last time, by all means, keep it with you. If you do not, here is how you complete it. So if you want to put your birth chart together very quickly, you take the hashtag and you get the numbers. Like if you look at, let's say this is the ruling number. If you just take the various numbers from your birth date and put them in the boxes. Okay. So my birth date is 10141970. So I have 3 1s in the 1 box. I have the 9 in the 9 box. I have the 4 in the 4 box and the 7 in the 7 box. And of course, because there is no 0, we just leave that out. Oh. No, what's that now? 9?
Said 6 9 at the top right corner.
Yeah, 6 is the right side of the middle row. 9 is the right side of the top row. Yep. Tabby's got a good example. He can show you there. Okay, you can see his. Does anybody need help doing theirs? Is anybody running into problems?
Yeah, can you just briefly go on like what numbers go in which boxes from left to right and then below that?
Okay, so see the breakdown here?
Yeah.
That is what numbers go in the boxes. So if you were born on, say, March 3rd, you would have 2 3s in the 3 box. See where the 3 box is in the upper left-hand corner?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I got it. Dog, go lay down. You're going to hurt yourself. All right. So everybody else having some issues putting their numbers in? Everybody good? Okay. All right. So we talked about these. There's explanations for these in the part 2 slides, if you wish to look them back up. There's Yes, Shannon will put the link, I'm sure. Or already put it in there someplace. So, but now we're going to talk about these. Okay. So these red and green arrows, these are also arrows of individuality, and they also tell you a few more things. And so if you have a solid row of numbers, like a 1, a 5, and a 9, or multiples in any of those boxes, okay, you have the arrow of determination. If you have none of those, you will have the arrow of procrastination. Now, it's interesting to note that anybody born in the 19th century will have a 1 and a 9. Okay, so, or in the 20th century, right, we'll have a 1 and a 9 because you were born in 19 something. If you were born in 1950, you will automatically have the arrow of determination, or any of the 50s. If you have a 5 in your name or in your birth date anywhere and were born in the 20th century, you will have the arrow of determination. Now, another interesting note, when you get to the arrow of spirituality, which is the 3, the 5, and the 7, if you have the arrow of spirituality and were born in the 20th century, you have the 5, you will have the other one as well. Okay. So interesting things to realize when you're looking at these. All right. So if you do have the arrow of determination, which is the 1, the 5, and the 9, okay. Everyone born in the month of May in the 20th century, anybody born in the 1950s, anyone with a 5 anywhere else in their birth chart in the 20th century, because 1 and 9 are pretty standard. The arrow of determination has both positive and negative aspects. Being determined is a good thing, but too much can make for stubbornness and obsession. Okay. How many times have we seen people hyper focus on things that they just can't get out of their head because they're determined to make a difference or determined to get stuff done, and they just focus on it to their absolute and total destruction. Okay. Yeah, I've watched it several times. Fox News syndrome is a thing. Okay. Of course, the opposite is also true. People get so wrapped up about every issues, and they get so, focused on whatever they're doing that they don't realize that, their bad energy is washing over everybody near them. And I mean, it happens. So, but determination gives people a sense of wanting to overcome obstacles and tackle projects, but sometimes produces a blind spot to obstacles that may be leading a person down a more useful path. Okay. Sometimes if there's an obstacle in your way, it's not meant to be surmounted. Okay. It's trying to tell you to go around or take a different path. I know a lot of people, when they're thinking about things that they want and things that they're trying to get to, or whatever goals they've made for themselves. Okay. They see obstacles in the way as a way of keeping them from getting there. Well, not necessarily true. Maybe leading you to a different path. It might be leading you to a path around the obstacle. You never know. So Brian says, I have 5 numbers and a red solid. So Brian has the arrow of determination. So determination, hopefully you desire to overcome obstacles and do good things in the world. Hopefully. Where were we? Okay, so if you have none of the 5, what's that? Somebody said something. All right, so
That's me to a T.
Yeah, our arrow of procrastination. So who's got the arrow of procrastination? So the arrow of procrastination is where you have none of the 1, 5, or 9. Is it the 1, 5, or 9? Yeah, I think it is. 1, 5, or 9. Right. So I was going to say there should not be anybody in this group unless you were born in the 21st century, unless you were born after 2000. Because if you were born in the 20th century, you have the 1 and the 9. So But if you were born in, let's say, the year 2000 and, you know, March 17th, you're, well, no, March, say, 7th.
Mine's actually 11599. So it was the previous.
So you've got extra nines, right?
Yeah.
Janice too.
Yep. So again, these are indicators that are things like, especially with the arrow of determination. We can talk a little bit more about this because it seems to apply to more people in this group. Because obviously, you know, most of us were born in the 20th century. I don't know if there was anybody here that was born after 2000. There might be somebody, but the arrow of determination can be a great thing. It can lead you to have tremendous amounts of willpower and overcoming obstacles and reaching your goals and setting goals. But it can also it can give you a degree of stubbornness, okay? And sometimes even to obsession. You know, people like Janice, you got 2 9s in there, and 9s are especially important to watch out for. If you look at the birth chart thing, from part 2, there's a whole section in there about multiple numbers in boxes. So if you have more than one of something in a box, it's kind of like an amplified version of that. Okay. So like having like for me, I have the amplified ones. Okay. Where it usually means that I'm kind of a loner, or I like to do things by myself and and I have 3 of them. So it does kind of give me that quality. So, so Brian's got 2. Now, again, if you look at the slides from part 2, Brian, there's a whole breakdown on what it means for having different types of numbers in different boxes. That's what we did last time. So
I took a note that the 2 9s was intensity of idealism and zeal.
Yep.
You tend to become critical of those with less intensity of idealism, and practicality becomes difficult for some.
Yeah, because again, you've got this overwhelming, okay, and it does, it can anyway. I mean, you have to know for yourself. Obviously, this is a voyage of self-discovery. Numerology and putting these things in the chart and interpreting them for you is all about you. You know, I mean, I can tell you a little bit about what the numbers mean, but they do mean different things to different people sometimes. So, and this is not, again, it's like astrology. It's not an exact science. It's meant to push you into a direction of discovering yourself, basically, to what it's supposed to. But having more than one number in a box usually amplifies the effects of having that number in the box, or produces some strange results, like having one of more 9s, like you said, okay, becoming critical with those with less intensity of idealism. You combine that with the arrow of determination, and you may have somebody who is, you know, they've got an intense sense of idealism and want to accomplish great things in the world, and yet are determined to the point of obsession to make things happen. And they will probably die alone and miserable because they spent all of their life chasing after something that, I mean, it may have been important to them. I got it, you know, but they tend to overlook other things that might be important to them too, you know. And then you look at the end of their life, they probably will die saying that they, you know, did what they love doing. Okay. But I think those kind of people are missing out on, you know, there's lots of other things in life that are important, you know, love, relationships, you know, booze, so rum, worshiper of Dionysus. Yes. So, but again, you know, these are things to look out for and things to be aware of. Now the arrow procrastination, like I said, I don't think we have anybody in the group. Is there anybody in the group that is, oh, look at that. Andrea's got 2 1s, a 5, and 2 9s. Wow, that's interesting. So you got actually, the 2 1s might balance it out, balance the 2 9s out. I don't know. You'd have to look at the breakdown that Shannon's putting in from like part 1 or 2 about multiple numbers in boxes, and it'll help you. But is there anybody in the group that was born in the 20th century? Do we have any? I don't want to say children because you could potentially be in your young 20s by now. But okay, well, if you are doing these for your children, again, you could see these things. I know in part one, there was somebody here that was actually doing them. I think, wasn't it Betty that was doing it for her kids? I think Betty was doing it for her kids. So
Janice.
Janice was, yeah, right.
I mean, I think Betty was too, but I remember Janice specifically in my head.
I know.
She had like 5 papers around.
Yeah, like I said, good with faces, bad with names. So Zoom makes it kind of difficult because half the time I can't see your face either. So it's like, hey, I remember that name. I'm remembering the picture of your name in my head. But anyway, the arrow procrastination, if this comes up for your kids, okay, may be something to pay attention to, because as everybody knows we're kind of moving into the age of Aquarius now, right? So we're moving from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. We're moving from a thought process that is more rational into more idealistic, okay? And the newer members of our society are going to tend to be dreamers and, people with intense ideals. Numerology tells us this because their birth dates are going.
Sorry, guys. There's like way too many people talking all of a sudden. I don't know what's going on. Stop! 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 Stop!
I think I was the only one talking.
Betty, are you talking to us or are you talking to your kids?
Yeah, no, I'm talking to you guys. Like, there's like extra voices coming through my thing, and it's only from you guys. So I don't know what's going on.
Okay, somebody's got somebody, whoever that was, just turned their speaker or turned their microphone off because we were getting a feedback. So is there a way we can like mute everybody? I guess not. All right, well, whatever. Are we good now? Am I not feedbacking everybody for some reason? Okay, all right. So again, if you're doing this for your children, okay, you might see the arrow of procrastination. The reason I call it the arrow, the reason it's called is because if you're dividing the birth chart by like that, okay, so it separates the intuitive components from the practical, right? The practical is the stuff at the bottom right, and the intuitive stuff is the stuff at the top left. So if you divide the chart like that, you end up with people with great intuitiveness, but all of a sudden the practicality kind of suffers a little bit, and they may have lofty ideals and thoughts and dreams, but not motivated enough decisiveness or persistence enough to reach it. So yes, Betty, I read through I love your presentation. It is beautiful. If I'm off work, I will be definitely I will be sitting in on your class. For those that don't know, Betty Boone is giving a class on cartomancy. It's basically fortune telling with a regular deck of cards instead of tarot cards or anything special.
Now I feel all flattered and embarrassed.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
Don't be proud of that. That presentation was beautiful. You can add a little bit more aces and eights symbolism in there for me, though. I'm just kidding. Just a few skulls.
Done and dusted. I'll throw in some dead stuff.
No, it's fine. It looked really nice the way you had it set up. So, but anyway, back to what we were talking about. The arrow of spirituality is the green one now. So that is the one that goes through the 3, the 5, and the 7. Okay, so from top left to bottom right. So this is an interesting one because the 3 most symbolically powerful numbers on each of the 3 planes are the 3 in the mind plane, the 5 in the conscious plane, and the 7 in the soul plane. Okay, or the 7 on the practical or on the physical plane. Okay, these 3 numbers tend to produce deep spiritual awareness and calmness. One of the things that you notice is the 3 is the creative principles, right? It's the step right after the 2 where 2 people collaborate and they produce something, right? 5 is the compassion and creative expression, and of course 7 is the awareness and acceptance of sacrifices, which we talked about from the last time, right? So 7 indicates the, that's where you understand where your the sacrifices of your efforts are going to have to be, and you accept them. So these 3 numbers in this give you kind of a childlike quality where you are a sense of calm and spiritual awareness in everyday life. I know it when I was reading this, putting this material together, the guy who I was getting my information from said that next to last line there can lead to an almost childlike, naive trust of people, as well as a deep-rooted sense of justice. And I can see that because it's practical. It's also very practical. I don't know if I'm in the way, but that's uncanny intuition there in that little corner that down in the bottom. Trying to stay out of the way of the words. Interestingly, if you have the arrow of spirituality and you were born in the 20th century, you will have the arrow of the other one too, the arrow of determination. Ooh, I shouldn't have drank that. That was carbonated. Oh well. Go back to my lemon water. All right, so the last moment we're going to talk about is the arrow of the inquirer. Used to be called the arrow of skepticism, but skeptics tend to remain skeptics. Okay, a lot of people say, skeptics, even when they're cornered with the facts, they still don't believe. Well, that's not true of the people with the arrow of the inquirer. Okay. Yeah, Gabrielle, I'm in the same boat as you are. I have neither. I don't have a 5 either, so I don't have either of the arrows. So, but those with this arrow tend to prefer facts and evidence before they believe in things, before they accept things as truth. But however, once they are convinced, they tend to avidly accept a new idea, right? If they are not convinced, they just tend to disregard the idea forever. At that point, they're like, no, it's never gonna. People with this arrow tend to investigate and embrace rational methods of thought, scientific methods. Lots of scientists have arrows in the inquirer. People that look to the stars, astronomy scientists, mathematicians. One of the things to watch out for with the arrow of the inquirer, depending on whether you've got more numbers, particularly up in the upper left. So, or not more numbers, but particularly not more numbers. If you have, say, the arrow of the inquirer, so that row, that middle is empty, and you have nothing on one side of that arrow. Okay, right. So if you have nothing on one side, like if you look at my chart has the 1s, the 4s, and the 7s, and then the 9 alone up in the. So if I didn't have the 7 down in the bottom, I would have this arrow. Okay, what I'm saying is if you have this arrow and there's nothing on one side of the arrow, like you don't have any 9s or 4s, okay, you need to look out for that, because that can lead you to too much skepticism, especially when you're talking about the lower left-hand side. If you have nothing on the lower left-hand side, but the upper right-hand has numbers in it, it might lead you to too much skepticism, and at that point you won't trust anyone or anything. So it's just something to look out for. Again, if you're doing this for your kids, or you're doing this for somebody that maybe you can understand somebody a little better by running their birth chart. I don't know. I kind of look at that as, creeping on people by running other people's birth charts. So, I mean, granted, this isn't an end all be all, hell, I can probably get better information by stalking their Facebook, but you know, they volunteered to put all that information out there. So, but recently I ran my mother's birth charts and got some interesting stuff. So my mom just passed away last year, so it's been interesting. Sharon says she has that arrow, works in IT, enjoys math. So I love math. Shannon will tell you it's one of the qualities that she probably absolutely hates about me. But hate being a strong word, but you hate math, so
Math is a cult.
of course it's a cult. But it's the cult that's going to end up understanding everything. Knowledge is power, man. Come on, Sharon. It's okay. You can admit it. Mathematicians are cultists. We've been hiding too long in the closet. So, but I mean, I love math. You know, I went through the whole. I took pre-calc in high school. Oh, thanks for the condolences about my mom. I mean, it was rough, but it wasn't unexpected. She had Parkinson's, so she went as peacefully as can be expected. So, but I did the whole thing with math. You know, I got to college and calculus and calc 2, calc 3, differential equations, nonlinear diff, you know, I mean, all kinds of I love math. You know, calculus is one of my favorite things too. Discrete math. Yep. Took that. So the funny part is I never had any desire to go into a field where I was going to need it. I mean, I wanted to be a biotechnologist when I first started out, and I eventually kind of shifted a little bit, and I wanted to be like an environmental science guy, right? How much math am I going to need? I mean, I obviously you need some, you know, you got to measure solutions and like you do in chemistry, but you know, how much math? I'm certainly not going to need. Well, yeah, geology somewhat, yeah, obviously stresses on tectonic plates, et cetera, sure, but you know, I wanted to be the squirrel service guy out there in the woods, you know, repopulating aquatic plants and stuff like that. So really, how much math are you going to need to get in? I know, because I know that my degree that I was aiming for only required that I have up to, I think it was college calculus, college calc 1. It's all it was required, but I took all of them anyway. So just like math. Of course, I've probably forgotten more about it now than I ever knew, but whatever. Okay, so moving right along. So this topic, so basically what we talked about was a recap, and we talked about the 4 arrows of individuality that we did not get to the last time. Okay, because we talked about the left and right, you know, the left to right arrows, and we just didn't have enough time to get to the diagonals. Okay, I know Tabby had, you know, he got his because, you know, and it's fine, you know. Of course, math is Greek. Oh, Tabby, she, right. So anyway, so we're going to talk about 3 basic numbers today. Actually, we're going to spend most of our time talking on the first 2 because the first 2 are kind of make up the third one. The soul urge number and the outer expression number. So the soul urge number it's the subtle things about individual spiritual sensitivities, your fortitude, your drive, the things that spiritually you are looking for or have tried to attain or maybe have attained. I mean, again, it's one of those things that, you know, it's individual. You got to know for yourself what it's telling you. So the outer expression is kind of the way you express yourself outwardly. It's things and what external forces you tend to apply, okay, to your outward pointed drives. All right, and then the complete name number is basically the sum of both of those 2 things. We'll get into that. It's similar but less powerful than the birth path number, and it can provide reinforcement and balance to the birth path number. So from those who were here in part 1, the birth path number is the one that you used to add up all of your birth date numbers. You came up with a birth path number, like mine, I believe, was a 5. So, well, here's another way go into we're going to take your name and we're actually going to divide it up. So this is, I put this in here because I want to talk about this for a minute. It's actually kind of it's important. Okay. Some of us, like myself, use the names we were given at birth. There are some of us that choose to go by a different name sometimes, and sometimes all the time. Some of us who prefer our middle names. There's some who adopt magical names or names that we want others to know us by. Some of us, like myself, have chosen a secret name that we give ourselves that we share with very few other people. Okay. The point of this is you have to decide what name you're going to use for the following exercise. You can choose the name you've chosen, if it's your birth name, if it's the name that you've chosen for yourself, if it's the name of your middle name that you go by to other people. It's usually you tend to use the name that you introduce yourself to others as. Okay. Now, if it's usually, like I said, it's usually the name that you introduce yourself to others as. Okay. And the reason we're using this is because the sound of your name has a certain resonance. All right. The ancient Chaldeans and even Pythagoras understood that names have sounds, and sounds are mathematically represented by harmonies. And so when you use your name, or you say your name, or others say your name, they're using those sounds, and sounds are powerful. Words are powerful. Okay. And whatever it is, like I said, if it's usually the name that you introduce yourself to others, but you can do any of them. You can do the secret name that you've chosen for yourself. You can, if you use your middle name all the time, use that one. I mean, if you've chosen a name because maybe you've transitioned or something, and you don't want to be associated with your former name, or that's entirely up to you. Okay. It's important that you use the name that most resonates, again, sound most resonates with you. And it may be helpful to you to analyze other names that you have, like your birth name. If your parents gave you a name at birth that you no longer use for whatever reason, it may be helpful for you to analyze it the same way. Okay. You might find some stuff in there that make you realize why you didn't want that name. Okay. Or why that name never felt right to you. Or, sometimes, if you have, like, I know a lot of people that were adopted had a birth name that they were born with that they didn't even know until they saw their birth certificate. Okay. And they've used it, and they've analyzed it, and they've, gotten something out of that. When you do this, you're going to add all the numbers in it together. And if you choose a secret name, like when I chose a secret name for myself, ironically, I chose one that had the same name number as my birth name. So, but that doesn't mean that it will give identical analysis. Okay. Because you got to look at it, and you got to parse it out, and we're going to get to that. So analyzing the numbers can give you better understanding. All right. So we'll start with the soul urge number. So take your piece of paper and write your name that you have decided to go with on a line. My apologies. I'm not dying, but plague party. Yeah. We're definitely having a plague party, that's for sure. Bring out your dead. Yeah. Okay. So then your outer expression number. So if you look there, once you write your name down, recognize the letters. You're going to look up the number that corresponds to the vowels in the left-hand chart. So, like, my name is Eric. I have the 5 from the E and the 9 from the I. And then you're going to add them together until you get a single digit number, right? So 1 + 4 equals, or 9 + 5 equals 14. 1 + 4 equals 5. Now remember, if you come up with 9, or if you come up with 10, 11, or 22, do not reduce it down further, because these are numbers that Pythagoras deemed as special numbers. Okay, they're power numbers, and we'll get into what they mean. Do the same thing with the consonants. Okay, so the reason we're doing this is the vowels are kind of the soul of any word, right? Every singer and voice artist, they know that. All right, vowels are what makes the word take on life. Okay, consonants are the hard kind of middle part of that. They're the exterior of the word. So I've had people do this with German language, and it's interesting, but because German is like a huge conglomerate of consonants that. So yeah, but what's that? Yeah, I know. I wish he was on here. Of course, there are words in German that have like 8 vowels in them. So, A's and U's and a bunch of other stuff. Now, if you have a Y in your name, okay, technically a Y is a consonant, but you have to look at how it's used. Okay. So in a word like, in a name like Sydney, for instance, the first Y, you're looking at it, that's obviously being used as a vowel. Even the last one is also being used as a vowel. Okay. So look at the word, look at the name, figure out how that Y is being used, and then use it as whichever one feels right to you, like how what it's representing in the word or in the name. Okay, so does everybody have their soul urge numbers down? Nope, this is just the name that you. So okay, let me back up for a second. You're just use your first name, okay, the name you introduce yourself as, your adopted name, whatever. Okay, do not use your family name, because again, family name it's not uniquely yours. Okay, like my last name is Peisel. There have been many generations of people with that same last name, so it's not uniquely mine. You can use your middle names too if you're one of those people that like to, middle names. Okay. So once you've got that plugged in there, so is anybody having trouble? Is everybody gotten soul urge numbers and outer expression numbers down?
I have a question.
Shoot.
All right. I am using my name Janice. So
Okay.
when I do that, I have an A, which is a 1.
Yep.
But the I is a 9. So is that 10 plus the E is a 5? Would that be
15.
That would be a 15? The 10
Yes.
is what I'm asking.
Yes. Just add the
Okay,
number. It
thank
doesn't matter how you add them, but you'll see what, if you do it enough times, you'll understand. But yes, 1 plus 9 plus 5 is 16 or 15. And then you get 1 plus 5 is 6. So your soul urge number is 6.
I'm a little
Okay.
tired. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
It's you and me both, sister, man. I'm telling you, I got it.
But thank you.
I feel for you. So, okay. All right, where was I? Okay, so once you have your soul urge number, okay, take a look at your soul urge number and match it up on the slides here. All right. The part 3 slides are on the Google Drive. So I don't know, Shannon, have you shared the part 3 slides yet? If you share the part 3 slides, if you want to look yours up on your own, you're more than welcome. Okay. But soul urge ones, need for freedom, especially individual freedom of expression. Okay. Soul urge 2s, balance and harmony. Soul urge 3s tend to balance feeling, thinking, and assessing. Gabrielle, no, you do not reduce 10 down any further. 10 stays at 10, and 11 stays at 11, and 22 stays at 22. I don't know if anybody's ever going to get to 22, but I mean, it's possible if you got enough E's in your name. Or is it I's? I's are 9s, right? So,
Eric, I'm having a bit of difficulty here.
Okay, go ahead.
I wrote out my first name, my middle name, and my last name.
Okay.
And I did the vowels for the first name, and I come up with a 7.
Okay.
The second name, I come up with a 6. And the third name, my last name, I come up with a 2. Am I doing this right?
I believe so without actually seeing your calculations, but that seems correct to me. What you should come up with is, for each name that you do, you should come up with a single digit number. unless it's a 10 or an 11. Like, so when we get here, if you look at the screen, there's Soul Urge 10 and 11. Okay, right here. So, what I would say is, and again, this is you, the name I would suggest that you use is the one that you go by in everyday use. I mean, if people call you by your first and last name all the time, use it. But technically, like I said, your last name is your family name. That's not uniquely yours. You can run it. It'll give you some interesting insight if you want to analyze it. So, but correct. It seems like you're doing it right.
And then what I did was I did the consonants.
Yep.
Which was like a 5, and then middle name 7, and the last name being 8. But I don't add any of those numbers together.
No, just for now, leave them all separate.
Okay.
Okay. For now, leave them all separate. Okay. And because when you write the numbers down, okay, we're going to go into some more here in a bit, but when you write the numbers down, just write the numbers for each letter, vowels on the top, consonants on the bottom. Okay. And then, add the consonants and the vowels in separate places, but leave the numbers visible because individual numbers are going to become important when we analyze the complete name number. All right, so the vowels in the name that you chose, right? If you've got add together should be that's your Soul Urge number. So here's 1 through 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I am a Soul Urge 5. Shannon can attest to the fact that I will argue shit until she throws me away, hoping that she'll understand it. I know, can't help it. Fatal flaw. Well, maybe not fatal, but you know.
I'm a 7.
That's true. Right? So one of the things about 7s is 7s have kind of they want to teach and they want to help. But they tend to take a dim view of other people teaching them things, especially things that they think they already know. They're willing to, it's just you kind of have to handle them a bit delicately. And I can see that in you, Shannon, definitely. All right, so here's the one with the 10s and the 11s, okay? So 10 is important because 10s is kind of like it's like a metaphysical flexibility. All right. Some people with this number seek knowledge of, the occult because maybe they have intuition or just they feel things that they can't explain. And my Aunt Peggy was a Soul Urge 10. And of course she was also the whole, indoctrinated from birth Roman Catholic and thought that the visions that she was getting of the future were the devil. And she's been on anti-anxiety meds for most of her life. And I told her to embrace it. I'm like, it's a gift. And she's like, it's the work of Satan. And, okay. It's true. All right. My Aunt Peggy is a Soul Urge 10 and her name's not Peggy, but she's a Soul Urge 10, but I'm telling you, she would call me like a week before bad shit happened. I mean, just wanting to know if I was okay. She always somehow knew that something bad was coming or sensed that something bad was coming. And I know it drove her absolutely crazy. So, Soul Urge, was somebody saying something or was that my voice?
That was me. I was going to ask the Y's, Val or not Val?
The what?
Y, a Y in the name. Is it a vowel or is that a consonant?
Okay. Y's, you should look at how is it used in the name? Is it taking the place of a vowel? Like in the word Sydney, it seems to be indicated to be a Y, or an I, rather, the first one anyway. And it looks to be a second E at the end of the name. So those are both good examples of vowels. Okay. All right, so let's go back to the chart for those that, oops. So Y is a 7. Now, like I said, that 7 could end up either on the top or the bottom, depending on, you know, how you interpret the name that you're using. You know, if you've got a name in Yiddish that you go by, chances are you might have a couple of Y's in there. Remember, there are other languages out there. English is one of many. Also, some things that I've seen people do when they do these, if you have silent letters in your name, like one of our good friend Hava has a C at the beginning of her name, but you don't pronounce the C, right? It's as though the C wasn't there. If you have a silent letter in your name, okay, you can choose to ignore it. I wouldn't, at least for the initial analysis, but then go back and find out. All right, plug it in, you know, find out what the analysis is, and then take it out and see what the analysis is after that. Sometimes you will find, you know, that like people with 2 N's in their name, like Shannon, for instance. Okay, you got 2 N's, you know, okay, so that's a couple of extra 5s in there. Really, that's only adding 1 to your total. So you're 1 number off if you leave one of those. Well, actually, if you leave them both out, but you know, if you leave them out, you're 5 away. So like you were a 7. So if you leave one of them out, you'd end up as a 2, I think, right? S1.
I have 3 ends, yeah.
8. Well, yeah, but only one of them is actually silent. S H. So 1 8 5 is 1 8 5 is 14 and 19. So you end up with 10.
Yeah, it'll be 10.
Yep. So you end up with 10 if you leave one of those silent ones out.
Interesting.
Okay. See what I mean? So now, again, it's entirely up to you. Like, you know, I mean, if you see your name, and like Sharon just posted, if you see your name pronounced as Shannon, then yes, technically those ends aren't silent. But, you know, I mean, again, a lot of us, and I don't want to say everybody, but we all do it on occasion. We get lazy in our speech. You know, we cut corners. I mean, that's why the word ain't exists to begin with. You know, people don't want to go the whole route. That's why we have contractions in the first place. People didn't want to say cannot every time because it was too clunky. So we just said can't. All right. Names get shortened all the time. As us military people know all too well, post-traumatic stress disorder has been completely devoid of any sort of emotional impact whatsoever, and now we call it PTSD, and nobody even knows what the letters mean in the first place. So basically, people don't care about it. It's like KFC. Nobody gives a shit about KFC. But happens, all right? So everybody get their Soul Urge stuff, right? So Soul Urge 11s, all right? If it's important to note whatever your soul urge is, compare it to your birth chart, okay? If you see things in your birth chart that shows like a lack of certain things, your soul urge number is there to kind of, you know, reinforce or offset other things in your birth chart, okay? It's meant to kind of skew the results a little bit because your names are as important as your dates of birth. So like when they tried to convince us it stood for Kitchen Fresh Chicken. Oh my God, you're kidding. I never saw that. All right, Joanna, bye. Have fun. Be safe. But damn, Kitchen Fresh Chicken. Oh my God, you gotta be kidding. Yeah, right. All right, so moving right along. Actually, it's 8:04. I'm going to insist that everybody take 5 because I'm going to probably go throw up, or at least go pee because I've been drinking a ton of water. So take 5. I'll be back 8:09, 8:10, something like that. Take 5. I'm gonna
All right. Bye, Brian. Have a good one. Thank you for coming by. Hanging out with the pagans and the witches.
I'm learning a lot.
Yeah, are you?
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say I have we have the other two recordings of it. So if you like it, it's a little I like astrology, that's where my comfort zone is, but I find this stuff fascinating, but it's also a little too much math for me. It's a little reminiscent of high school.
Yeah. Apparently math is geek to you too, huh?
Yes, it is.
All right. See you later.
All right, bye, Brian.
Bye.
There we go. I can catch up. Finish my editing. I think I got it though. I think I got it right. It's the only one I don't got.
Just explaining the basics of it is hard enough.
I know it's gonna be fun. Yes, Gabrielle, we are going to do astrology. I think we're putting together a tarot like one-on-one class, like from the ground up. But yeah, I am working on my astrology class. So I will have that put together and get that because
All right.
actually you both between Michael, Eric, Betty, and our cartomancy class, y'all inspiring me to get off my ass.
Oh, well, like I said, we've been talking about having a tarot thing where everybody, like jointly, our group here wants to get together and put together a tarot thing. So, I mean, I think we could expand that out to all kinds of good stuff. I mean, we could start with basics and everybody gives them basic classes. And Emily could put in a section on her cat deck and I could put in a section on my steampunk deck and so all right. My apologies, fever's back, so are the chills. So all right, so moving right along. Soul urge, we understand that and what that is now. So now the outer expression numbers, these are the sums of the consonants. Okay. You'll notice as you go along and read these that they tend to follow a logical progression, which some of you may have seen before. Okay. The journey of the fool is kind of expressed perfectly right through here in the, you know, in the, in the outer expressions. Okay. So one obviously is the solo sportsman, is the solo explorer, the worker. Values individual hard work and dedication above group dynamics. So outer expressions too tend to be value working as a team or a group. Bright with a love of simple and lighthearted pleasures. Outer expression threes tend to want to be the one entertaining others. They get us. I am an outer expression three, and I tell you, I am not artistic whatsoever. Well, I can write. That's about as artsy as I get. I'm working on some artsy stuff, but it's mostly metal. So we'll see, right? But it's entertaining. Just doesn't just necessarily mean, you know, somebody who's trying to, you know, play a song for somebody and make them, or it could be, you know, stand-up comedy or something like that. And I tend to find I do that to myself when I do open up to a group of people. I tend to be the one that makes the, you know, the offhand, well, Shannon does it too, but you know, we tend to make offhand remarks that make people laugh, and you know, we tend to be the ones that guide a yeah, storyteller's a good example, Sharon. That, yeah, perfect. Okay, you know, I find myself telling war, you know, army stories, and you know, most of the people in our group are not military at all. Some of them, they look at the story, I can tell they got this look of horror on their face, like, you did what now? You know.
Yeah, dude, Michael and Clark are
I
military.
know Michael and Clark are military, so they've got some of their own kind of funny stories when it comes to military stuff. But you can always tell when it make a hole, yeah, make a hole. So, of course, we used to have a captain that would say, "Make way," because I don't know you well enough to make you a hole. So, all right, whatever, you know. Of course, like I said, it's our army humor is kind of. What did Michael just jump on? Oh yeah, no, he'll tell you. Army. Oh shit! What did I just do? Oh, Oh, that's cool. I didn't know I could do that. No, I just full screened it all for myself. That's beautiful. I love it. Of course, I can't see the chat, but oh well, screw it. Anyway, military humor falls into two different categories. You know, it's the, oh my God, that was funny, or what the hell is the matter with you? So, all right. So outer expressions again, outer expressions fours tend to be intensely practical, enjoy working with their hands. Now, one of the things that outer expression fours also tend to be is very rational and logical when it comes to things like spirituality. You tend to find a lot of hard right conservative types are outer expression fours. They tend to view morality as it's black and white. It's either right or it's wrong, or it's okay. It's not okay. That's what outer expression fours tend to lead themselves to. Oops. So, all right, fives. Oh. So fives, these are the people that are trying to find ways to be free from physical confinement, not working in a cubicle. All right, everybody seen the movie Office Space? You know what I'm talking about? Okay. What I mean when I say that you're sometimes victims of misunderstandings and shyness, it's not that they're trying to get away from you. They're just trying to leave an environment that makes them uncomfortable. A place like, you know, a broom closet, or standing in front of a water cooler in a hallway. You know, it's like they're cramped in here and they got to get out. Sixes tend to focus their attention's energy on the home. Okay. Of course, we've probably known plenty of people that, you know, they focus on the home right up until all of a sudden they're bored, they're complacent, they can't do it anymore, they burn themselves out, because just like anything else, tending to follow one particular thing for too long burns you out. Outer expression sevens favor personal achievements and satisfactory discovering things for themselves. Now, sevens tend to Again, same as the Soul Urge sevens, they're more focused on learning things for themselves. They'd rather go out and take an axe out into the wood and learn how to split wood with their axe by themselves than sit through a YouTube video of some guy explaining to them how to do it. Okay, or sitting through a class. You understand? These are your hands-on learners that tend to discover things for themselves. Outer expressions 8s. These are the group coordinators. They're the ones that want to see the group succeed. Remember, 4s are the rational ones. Four in just about anything is the builder. It's the stable kind of earth element that keeps everything together. 8s are just another expression of that. It's just a higher plane of the same 4. Instead of just being, your own 4 and grounded and solidified in yourself, now you've got a group that you're trying to do that to. And of course, remember, if you look at the 4 basic, they're the 4 solids, the 4 solid polyhedrons. A cube has 4 squares, and then they have adjoining legs that hold up the 2 squares. Of course, those make 4 more squares, right? So, honestly, there's a square on the top and a square on the bottom. Well, if you think about the tesseract is just a 4-dimensional version of that same cube. So these numbers will compound themselves if we had concepts to express them. Okay. All right. 9s, 10s, 11s, and 22 4s. Yeah. Well, Janice, I took some actual NyQuil earlier, and it isn't doing a damn thing. I mean, it did. I passed out for an hour or so, Shannon, before I. So 9s are deeply contemplative. Sometimes, with outer expressions, 9s they tend to both overemphasize the serious of life as well as the not so serious. Okay, so it could be a good balance if they're living in a positive way, or if they're in a negative way and they're an outer expression 9, they can be overemphasizing the serious of life. Oh God, I got a million bills to pay, and they could be stressed out over where their next paycheck and next meal is coming from, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The outer expressions 9 tends to follow the rabbit hole to the wrong conclusion sometimes the right conclusions. But outer expressions 10 is basically a direct counterpoint to 9. 10 tends to guard themselves against those attitudes and superficial thoughts. Okay, they are very careful about making sure that their psyche tends to be protected against things that could damage it. You think that applies to you, Janice? You're deeply contemplative, tend to overemphasize the seriousness and stuff. Do you think it applies to you?
I am deeply contemplative, and I overemphasize on the good things.
Well, that's good. And
Everyone
so it fits
else,
in with the
how
theory.
are you? I'm great. I'm this, I'm that. Life is good. So I go the positive way.
That's good.
And people that can tend to piss them off if they're not having a good life.
Nice.
They don't like to be around people who are too positive either.
Well, that's true. There are a lot of people out there with a lot of negativity. Well, again, remember, just because we may be positive people, somebody else may not be a positive person. It isn't about what the numbers are. It's like if you are living positively or you have a positive attitude, that changes a whole lot of things. Mm-hmm. So, because in reality, these numbers these are just, everybody remember that theory from math, absolute numbers, right? They were neither positive nor negative. Technically, they were positive because they had the little brackets on them. So these numbers could be negative too. Okay, that's one thing that I failed to talk about in the last 2 classes, and it's more of an advanced kind of, when you start including elements of mathematics in here, it tends to confuse people. So I'm trying to keep it as simple arithmetic so that everybody can do it. So
Eric?
the one, yep.
I'm just working on my magical name.
Okay.
And I don't know what number T is for.
Hang on, we'll go back.
Sorry.
Nope, you're fine. Okay, so T is a 2. Have you got what you need now?
Yes, I do. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
You're welcome. Okay, so um outer expressions 11 indicates balanced emotional and spiritual expressions. The supposedly the greatest of Dalai Lamas had this outer expression. They want to tend to create calm and tranquility amongst a group. And his birth chart, according to the guy that wrote the book where I got some of this information, was literally an outer expression of, I mean, his given name that he used until he was known as the Dalai Lama gave him an outer expression of 11. And I think it was something like his consonants added up to something like, I don't know, it was 29 or something. I can't remember exactly. So it was something like that. It added up to like 29 or, something like that. But outer expression 22-4. Okay. 22 is another power number. Okay. It is the further expression of the 4s and the 8s. It's about organizing and practical applications. Sometimes this, and the reason 22-4s come with kind of a warning, because there's a dual nature there. It's their organizing and practical applications tend to exhibit a desire to transfer this into money making, sometimes into a seriously unhealthy degree. Some of the richest CEOs in the world, I'm told, have 22-4s. They're the people that, I mean, we can call it what we will, but they're thieves. So, all right. So does everybody have their soul urge numbers and outer expression numbers? Okay. So now the complete name number. So you're going to basically kind of do the same thing, only now, instead of just adding those numbers together, we're going to, like it says on the screen, the first thing you're going to do is put your name, put all the number. You don't have to put them above or below, just anywhere is fine. Pick above, pick below, doesn't matter. I mean, you could even just put it below the groupings that you've already got, but just put all the numbers now instead of dividing them by vowels and consonant. I mean, it should be easy to know. They're all right there above and below. Just combine them on underneath someplace. So like with my name, okay, I come up with a soul urge number of 5 and a outer expression of 3, right? But my complete name number is 5993. Okay, that's each individual number. So then we're going to add them together, but keep the original numbers visible, because you're going to take, like for me, for instance, 5, 9, and 9 and 3 is 26. 2 plus 6 is 8. So my complete name number is 8, but I have 2 9s in my name. So we're gonna see that here. Now, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, her first name comes out to master number 22. Anybody see that down at the bottom there? Mm-hmm. Trying to remember if I put the explanation for these. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, once you have all those numbers, I know they're not on a chart yet. We're going to do that in part 4. Okay, I'm going to have to kind of push this off because I'm about ready to pass out. So we'll get through this part, and then we will wrap up for next time. We've been an hour and a half, so I figure that's good, but we'll keep going with this. So what, Shannon?
I was gonna say, I'm surprised you're going this far. I was originally going to cancel, guys, but you
No, no,
said,
no.
I'm determined. and
No,
I'm
we can do this.
military motherfucker.
I can do this. I'm sitting in a chair. I mean, how difficult can this be? I mean, I have difficulty peopling anyway, so. All right. So anyway, once you get the values written out, like mine, I'll have 5993 and I'll have an 8. Okay. So what we're going to do is, just like we did with the birth chart numbers, we're going to go back and analyze them. So now, complete name numbers are a relationship between your soul urge number and your outer expression number, because they're basically those numbers combined together. They are also independent but supportive of your birth path number, or in opposition to your birth path, depending on what's represented on your birth chart. Okay, so again, I'm an 8. All right, the 8, if you look at my birth chart, okay, like I go back to my birth chart, right? The 8 fills in right above the 7. Does everybody see that? The 8 unlonerizes the 9 up there in the corner. Okay. So hopefully what 8 has taught me, being an 8 as a complete name number has taught me, helps it make up for any negative aspects that come along with having an isolated 9 up there in the corner. Okay. Does everybody understand what I'm talking about? No, 11, Betty, 11 is a special number. Do not reduce it any further. All right. So does everybody see this? Okay. So back to name numbers. Come on. So, if you have these numbers, right, look carefully at these numbers. Like I have no ones, so none of this applies to me. If you have ones, okay, this will apply to you. Now, if your complete name number, you're going to want to look that up in the in part 1 or 2, where we go through the explanation of numbers and what the numbers actually mean. Okay. So you're going to take your, like mine is an 8. Okay. So I know I have it here someplace and I can go to it real quick. Actually, I think it was in part 1. Yeah, it was in part 1. So let me open up part 1 and I can share it with everybody just so we can see it. Documents, downloads, come on. Numerology part 1. Okay. So all right. All right. Damn it. All right, where's my Zoom meeting? All right, here we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is unshare my screen, and then I'm going to share this screen. So this is from part 1. When we did part 1, we started with what the numbers mean. Okay, number 1 and number 2, and so on. So me, I'm a complete name number 8. Now remember, this is not, it doesn't mean that I'm going to have these things, but what it can mean, especially since remember, this is kind of a weaker version of what's in the birth chart. So it will help with whatever is missing in my birth chart, which if you look at my birth chart, there's practicality stuff galore at the bottom level, but there isn't a whole lot of spirituality, and there isn't a whole lot of, consciousness up in the top. There's the 9, okay, which is kind of the end goal, which is good. All right. But having the 8 actually offsets this a bit, because it gives me a number on the soul plane that kind of helps offset the fact that I have nothing there. Okay. And being an 8, because it's in the soul plane, it's about, I don't know. I guess it'd be more like, having a focused spiritual ideal that, you're going your own way, but you're doing it with the logic that you think is right. Does that make sense to everybody? I hope it makes sense to everybody. All right, so, all right. Gonna stop sharing this, but if you want to take your name number, your complete name number, and match it up to the number in part 1, and it'll tell you exactly what, why is Michael still connecting to audio? What's going on?
I was wondering that too.
Probably just because he's sitting in. That's fine. It's no big deal. All right. So Part 1 I can close, and part 3 I'm going to pull back up on the screen. God damn.
Eric, when
Yes.
you're looking at your complete number, is it adding the visual number and the consonant number together?
Okay. No. Yes and no. Okay. The first thing you're going to do, and let me go back to the slides and I'll show you. So what you're going to do with the complete name number is, yes, technically adding them together is going to give you the end number. Okay. So for instance, if you look at this, all right, where my name is an example right there, second row in the middle thing there, Eric equals 5993. Then down a few lines, you'll see the example where I've added the numbers together to 26. 2 plus 6 equals 8. 8 represents the sum of those two numbers that you had for the soul urge number, and because no matter how you add it, you're going to end up with that number. Okay. But I tell you to do it this way because there's a step in the middle here we've got to talk about. Okay. So when you look at a word like, like my name, which has 2 9s in it. Okay. The R and the I are both 9s, both the middle two numbers. Mm-hmm. And then Ashley right down here has 2 1s. Okay. Shannon, you should also have 2 1s, right? SH or SA. Okay. So, but you'll see what I mean here in a second, because we're going to go through like we did in the birth chart. Okay. And we're going to look for multiple numbers. Okay. So remember, this is your complete name number. This is an additive to the birth chart. Okay. You don't have to add it actually in there, but find out where it sits on the birth chart, just so that you know maybe these influences in your life, you've developed them in response to not having something in your birth chart. It all depends on where yours fits in. Mine just happened to be in the 8, and I understand how it worked. Okay. But I have 2 9s, so you can go down through these slides here. These are also in part 2. Okay. 2 9s. Intensity of idealism and zeal. And I know that occasionally I can become pretty critical of those that don't view things in at least as importantly as I do. Not that they don't have to have the same view of it that I do, but
I'm still a little confused.
Okay. Well, we'll do what we can to help.
Okay. I've worked out the vowels for the first name. And
Okay,
I worked out the consonants for the first name.
That's the soul urge number and the outer expression number.
Okay, now, do I add those two together to come up with my complete number?
No. Okay, you can, but I'm having you do it this way because this gives you a little bit more analysis of your name. Okay, so look at where on the screen here it says you're going to take write your name, or down below where you've already written it, just write the individual numbers that correspond to the letters all in a row. Don't worry about whether they're consonants or they're vowels. Just write them all out.
Okay.
Don't cross them out as you add them together either. Okay, just leave them there. Mm-hmm. Then you want to add them together, and you are going to get that number that adds the 2 other numbers that you've already done. Okay. The only reason I'm keeping you from doing it the way you were talking about doing it is because I want you to see the multiple. If you have multiple numbers in your name, there's some analysis you can do to tell you why those certain influences may be the way they are. Okay.
So for instance, I would take like Andrea, and I would have the 1.
Yep. You've got 2 1s too.
I got 2 1s and 2 5s and a 9.
Yep. You got 2 1s, 2 5s, and a 9.
And a
okay.
9.
Yep.
And so when I look at that,
wow,
I come up to 12, which is actually a 3. So that's what I'm looking at for my complete name number. 1
plus, you said 9, 3, and 1?
Okay, for the vowels.
No, 9,
I got,
5, and right. Okay.
I got 2 1s, 2 5s, and a 9.
So 10, 12, 21, 2 plus 1 should equal 3.
Actually,
You should
I
come up
got-
with a 3.
yeah. Okay. Okay.
Come up
good.
with a 3.
Yep.
Okay, so you got it. Now that is your complete name number, the 3, right? But realize we have a series of numbers there that are making up your name, okay?
Okay.
And you're going to use those when you move to this step here and analyze them. So you have 2 1s, okay? So you look at this chart and figure out like where those things, like where, I mean, the first thing you're going to do is look back at your birth chart and figure out where your complete name number fits on the chart, right? So
Mhm.
you came up with a 3, you said?
Yeah, it was a 3.
Okay, so that's the upper left-hand corner right there. See it?
Mm-hmm.
So if you did not have anything there before, or maybe you had an isolated number someplace else, okay, that the 3 helped you unisolate. Actually, 3 wouldn't do it. 5 would, 6 would. Okay, but depending on your birth chart, you'll see if you just, I mean, don't put it in there, just look up what the influences of it are. And these are things that your complete name number may be influencing you to help you overcome certain things in your birth chart that may be negative or too positive or whichever way it's going. Okay, again, this is all personal analysis. I mean, I can sit down and analyze it one way and somebody else can analyze it a completely different way. It's like doing a tarot card reading. All right, I'll do one and you get the exact same cards and I'll have different results to the next tarot reader. So
Okay. Thank you.
okay, so now once you've saw how it fits into the chart, you're going to look for the multiples, right? So if you, like Andrea, you've got multiple 1s. So here's Shannon, you've got multiple 1s, right?
Yes.
If
yes,
you
I do.
if you have multiple 1s, here's some things that, balance self-expression. Again, this is something that may be helping you offset. Maybe hanging out with me for too long has kind of made you see the value of arguing both sides of a debate. Maybe not, knowing you, probably not, but
I mean, to some extent.
I get it, but would you be open to doing a private reading? Happy to compensate. I would absolutely do. I mean, but you don't need to, you don't need to compensate me. Just send me your complete name, date of birth. And I actually, when we get to part 5, because this is part 3, when we get to part 5, we're going to be analyzing Kepler's triangle. Kepler's triangle, Pythagoras invented he didn't invent it, but he discovered the 3, 4, 5 right triangle. Johann Kepler made a golden ratio right triangle that he then filled out with a bunch of philosophical things to represent a life path. And we're going to do that in part 5. That's going to be part 5, probably part 5. So, but yeah, if you email me that information, give me some time right now. I can barely get out of bed. So as soon as I get the, oh, did you send that to me privately? Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I guess I shouldn't have outed you like that. Well, I saw the message. I just didn't realize it said direct. So anyway, so go through here, look for your name and what, see, again, Gabrielle's doing exactly what I'm hoping that people are going to do. Add names, put other things in, see what you get, analyze, do a little bit more than what I'm kind of telling you here, do some research on what the numbers mean to you, sit back and meditate on the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, figure out what they mean spiritually, emotionally, physically, and then use that in your analysis when you get a free moment. You want to sit down and do this. And like I told you, I chose a magical name for myself years and years and decades ago. And it actually is the same complete name number as my name. It doesn't have the same number or the same letters and numbers, but so it analyzes a bit different. So, do we have anybody out there with multiple other than ones and twos? What else do we have for multiples?
I got fives, 2 5s, but
All
I'm
right.
also missing a D. I don't know what the number D is.
Yeah, me too.
D. You're not missing a D, Shannon. Don't even start with that bullshit. You can take that shit right on out of here.
I
So
love
these
you.
are
I'm just
fours.
kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I'll give you the D later. All right. So, oh shit, I'm going the wrong way. She said that too. Right. All right. So, I'm sorry if I'm making offensive comments to anybody. I apologize. Okay. So, Andrew, you said you had multiple fives. Okay.
Yes, I got 2 5s in my first name.
So, again, realize that this complements what's in your birth chart. So, if you don't have a 5 in your birth chart, you kind of have a surrogate 5 in there now, which could give you the arrow of determination. You see what I mean? So, obviously not as strong as a true arrow of determination, but again, it might be something that you over the course of your life have developed to overcome certain things. Okay, this is why we do this analysis, and I know people that do this for their children, and they just go through their whole lives and everything. So, anybody else with multiple numbers? Anyone? Betty, you got 2 T's, right? Unless you're using a different name, or 2 E's too, for that matter, right? So, people with more 9s, okay.
I got all kinds of multiples under Betty Boone, but like I'm messaging you like my very complicated history, which is why I would love an expert opinion, because my family was altered and my name was altered because of the war.
Mm-hmm.
My great-grandfather didn't want to join the war, so he ran away and then realized that there was really no work for somebody who wasn't going to join the war effort.
Yep.
But because he had already kind of been a absconder of the war or whatever,
Right.
he had to change his name.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, he wasn't going to be allowed into the war, which meant he wasn't going to get paid.
Right.
So he looked up and there was a Phillips Fish and Chips.
Okay.
And so that became our last name. And then the
Phillips. Wow.
and the office that had all the records was bombed. But my original name is actually McDuffie.
Okay.
And I'm Scottish, apparently, or something thereof. But it's all really, 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 really messy. And it's all like, so I'd love to know.
23andMe will tell you a lot more about the genetics part, but.
Oh, yeah. But I don't, I'm not giving them my money.
I did them both. I actually I did Ancestry and 23andMe.
I want to be able to
Ancestry
eat.
linked me with a whole freaking family I didn't even know. So you want to be able to eat?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Canada, it's food is astronomical right now.
Yeah, we're having sort of similar problems here.
Yeah, like we have empty shelves, dude. You take what you can get. I'm not shitting you.
It's rough.
And you will pay through the nose, like ground beef, like for a package of ground beef now is like $20.
Yeah, I think the last time I looked, it was like $10.99 a pound here or something. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So it's like, okay, priorities are we get some protein every week.
Yeah. Priorities are buy chicken and stuff that's cheap. Yeah, I get you. That's what we do.
Nothing is cheap in Canada. Like nothing is cheap here right now because we get so much shipped up from you guys.
Yeah.
Because we're idiots.
And it's not cheap here either. So, and of course, and
then you add gas, and gas is just ridiculous.
Yeah, outrageous.
I'm very worried for our future.
It is going to get worse before it gets better. So It is going to get worse before it gets better. So,
You know what? Like,
all right, who's talking? Right, go ahead.
I don't think that it'll get better. I think it'll be the same, but it's going to constantly go crazy, like until it gets there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'm doing my best. I mean, granted, I have a very small reach because I work with a small group of 10 kids in my high school, but I am teaching them how to vote. They're all special needs, so teaching them how to vote is a big thing.
Good deal.
And teaching them what their rights are and what the parties stand for and what their goals for disability support is for these students, and explaining it in a way that they can understand, because all of my students are of voting age, but they have no idea. So I'm working really hard, but like, I mean, it's a drop in the bucket because I've got 10 students out of how many?
Yeah, I believe it. Oh, LaShare Griffin, I feel your pain. I lived in Virginia too. If a point that food
Gabriella,
tax,
that's cheap. Where are you?
bullshit.
Where are you in Toronto, Gabriella? Because I need to know, because it's like $2.20 in Newmarket. I'm gonna drive to you, man. Sorry.
What's that? $1.95 a liter?
That's so cheap compared to what we're paying up in Newmarket. We're paying $2.20 a liter.
And we're paying $1.99 in Ottawa.
So $1.95 a liter.
Ugh.
So
just a quick question there. Would you mind going back to the fives again? Because I worked it out to be 3 5s and I didn't quite get that noted down. Sorry.
Okay. Ooh. Hang on. All right. So here was the.
No, I'm okay here. It's just I need the slide that says 3 5s.
Oh, 3 5s, right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So multiple 5s.
Yeah. Emotionally intense.
So, does everybody understand the analysis part here? Is everybody seeing how you can look at the numbers and how you can analyze the numbers? It's all about seeing the patterns in the numbers. It's about, looking at one set of numbers and figuring out what they have to do with another set of numbers, or, how your name chart fits into your birth chart, or so how your solar chart fits into your birth chart, or, how the different ones relate together. Like if your solar and your outer expression number are the same thing, that might be an analysis point for you to go through. Realize you have a heavy one particular number there. So, all right. Now because these are specifically, 1 through 9, there are no 11s or any of the other stuff. Those analysis are in part 2s or part 1 where you analyze what the actual number itself means. And I showed you that. So I appreciate that very much. Chair. LaShare? LaShare? I don't know how to pronounce that. Share.
Yes, right.
Sherry.
He's LaShare is right, and you can just call me Share.
Okay, Share's good. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. And on that note, is there any other things that anyone would like to discuss before we go? In this slide deck, there is references to where I got most of this material. I don't want to say most, but quite a bit of it comes out of the book on the bottom of the list on the page, David Phillips' Complete Book of Numerology from 2005. It's very informative if you can get by the obvious Christian nature of the writer. Okay. If you can get through it, and realize, okay, Pythagoras never would have used praise be to God because he, what I mean? This is prior to, to him, it would have been God's, things like that. So, but I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead, Betty. So
would you be willing to maybe, like, if there was enough interest, do like give us some time to work out some numbers, maybe do some charts for family and friends and things like that, and then maybe just do like a kind of a like a Q&A question and answer roundtable discussion type thing? Like, would that be cool if
I could.
other people were interested?
Yeah, at the end of this, I can probably, what I could do is put together a series of discussion groups maybe, and it would be like, okay, take what you've learned here and go create your birth chart and your other stuff, and we can analyze it in a discussion group. We could do that.
I think you mentioned, Eric, that there's going to be a numerology 4 or 5.
Yeah, there will be a 4 because the next part of this is pathway numbers, life path numbers. There's a few things we're going to go through on that. Name charts, because you can actually put your name in the chart just like you put your birth date in the chart, and you can analyze that too. So we're going to talk about those. And then the one after that is going to be the divine triangle one. That's the one that we take Kepler's triangle and we start plugging in our own information. I actually have designed a spreadsheet with a chart that does most of it for you. So all you got to do is like plug in your name and date of birth and it will plug everything in. So I'll have that. That will be like one of the first things that gets shared in the class, because I do have a few tweaks to run to it, because my ability to organize where all the data goes and how it's calculated is pretty messy. So I've got like one sheet where everything comes out, but like 2 sheets where there's just blah, so I don't want people messing up stuff by not locking sheets and stuff like that, so the calculations don't get messed up. But it's fine. We'll roll with it as soon as it's ready, and it'll probably be, May, so June, it will probably be July's that we do part 5. So again, that's going to be the divine triangle. That's that comes out of, do I have that book sitting here? So if you look also on the reference page right there, there's right above David Phillips's thing, there's Javaine Faith's The Divine Triangle. The book was actually written in 1979, and she was spectacular at describing the things that go into the, I only hope I can do her book justice when I present it. So and then that link right there will just take you to some more things about numbers and what they mean. Okay. It's 8:50.
I have a fairly obscure reference to numerology. I could
okay.
I don't know, somehow copy the pages for you. It's by somebody called Norman Shrine.
Norman Shrine? I don't know.
And it's called Numerology, Your Character and Future Revealed in Numbers. It's an older book. It's a very old book. It's old.
Yeah.
So,
actually, the paperback version was written in January 1995.
Yeah.
I see it. It's
the
on
copy
YouTube.
I have is older.
It's on Amazon, so
but
I'm
if
sure
you ever
that
wanted anything out of that, let me know, because I have it.
I'm sure there's other versions of this. So
I got that one out of a garage sale, believe it or not. But
yeah, I believe it. This is where a lot of our stuff ends up. So
if you ever wanted resource out of that, just message me.
Yeah, I might actually order that book. That looks like
funny. Oh, don't order it, for God's sakes. I'll send you a copy.
Come on now. Oh, I can download a free PDF.
Well, there you go.
Either or. There's an original edition on Etsy. Oh my God.
Oh, don't do that.
Shit, it's sold.
Let me send you my copy if you're that
anal. It's sold. I'm sad. All right. Anyway.
Seriously, what am I going to do with this copy?
I don't know. What are you going to do with this copy? Use it.
I don't know.
Analyze your stuff.
No. I read it. I'm done. I'm like that.
There's probably more stuff in there that would be helpful to doing analysis like we're doing here. So,
probably, but why not share it with somebody who's going to appreciate it, man?
I appreciate it if you want to send it to me. I would.
I'll send you a copy of the book. I don't care.
Well,
the person's probably freaking dead.
If you're sending your copy because you have it, I'm not putting.
No, I'll send you like a facsimile, like a copy,
like a PDF.
Like I'll scan it. Yeah, like I'll scan it in and I'll send it to you.
I can just download a free PDF. Don't bother.
Okay.
So, don't bother. I mean, that seems like way too much effort to go through for something that
Not particularly, really, because I have a
can literally
machine that'll
download
do
the
it.
PDF of. That's cool. I
Yeah.
might be sending you some books and some money because I got a bunch of stuff I would love to have.
So maybe you can send it for the rest of us because I have a copy.
Yeah, put that out there.
Yeah.
It's like telling people you're the computer geek. Next thing
No,
you know,
but you know what? Like,
everybody's asking you to fix their
sure.
laptops. Yeah, so.
I don't know how like great the book is. There's I have some issues with some of the content myself, but you know,
Yeah,
it's an older book where there wasn't, you know, there wasn't a lot of gatekeepers, I guess. I don't know what else to say. You could publish anything in the 90s and it was cool.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what else to
80s
say,
and
man.
90s, you could publish anything.
80s and 90s, you could publish like crap running out of your ass and that was totally cool and nobody would call you on it.
And people did. And people did.
Eventually.
How to teach your cat about gun safety, right? Is that the one that
I had that.
you have that one? Yeah. See? I mean, granted, I got it. It's humorous, but you know.
Seriously, like how to teach your cat about guns, say sexism, like Satanism, like everything. It was hilarious.
So again, pretty pointless but funny, right? But that's a lot of the stuff you got in the 80s and 90s was stuff that was really garbage that had but it might have had some entertainment value. Of course, you know, back in the day before the internet, when you were like me and you had to mail order books, and 14-year-old me ended up with a copy of the Anarchist Cookbook at my house. My dad freaked out because the government's going to be looking for us. You know, so I still have it, still upstairs on the shelf. So, all right. Any questions? Any questions, comments, gripes, complaints?
No, it's very well done.
If you have gripes or complaints, other than the fact that I sound like shit and feel like shit, I know. So, like I said, next time is going to be more birth chart stuff. Well, it's going to be name charts and life paths. And then the time after that is going to be divine triangles and analysis. And that might actually be a two-parter because divine triangle analysis is pretty in-depth. It's way beyond introduction to numerology stuff. It's more advanced numerology because it's more like sacred geometry than it is numerology. Okay, so I will probably expand this into that like sacred geometry and the divine triangle type stuff. Other than that, I am going to pass out if nobody has anything further. Fever's back, chills are back. Anybody? Nothing. Oh, excellent. Okay, goodbye all.
Thank you guys.
I'm going to leave meeting.